On a crisp autumn evening, two friends decided to venture into the infamous Hoia Baciu forest in Romania, often dubbed the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. The forest, renowned for its eerie reputation and strange occurrences, stood with tall, twisted trees that seemed to watch their every move. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, carrying a faint, sweet scent of decaying leaves mixed with the earthy aroma of damp soil. The path they followed was barely visible, overgrown with tangled roots and patches of moss that squished softly under their boots. Every step felt deliberate, the forest almost alive, watching them. The sun dipped lower, casting long, eerie shadows that danced on the forest floor. An uneasy stillness settled around them, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and distant hoot of an owl. They reached a clearing bathed in the dying light of the day, where an old, weathered signpost stood, half buried in the ground. The lettering was faded, but they could make out the words, "Beware the whispering trees." A chill ran down their spines as they read it aloud. One friend chuckled nervously and brushed it off as local superstition. Undeterred, they pressed on, the forest now swallowing the last rays of sunlight. The air grew colder, and a strange fog began to creep in, swirling around their ankles like ghostly tendrils. The silence was oppressive, every sound amplified, the crunch of leaves, their breath, the rapid beating of their hearts. They came across an ancient oak tree, its gnarled trunk twisted and split in a way that looked like a grotesque face, frozen in a silent scream. One of them suggested they rest for a moment, so they sat down, their backs against the rough bark. As they sat, it seemed the air thrummed with a low, almost imperceptible hum, like the forest itself was whispering secrets just beyond hearing. Suddenly, one of them froze, eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Straining ears at first heard nothing. Then faintly a soft melodic whisper floated through the air. It was a woman's voice, lilting and ethereal, as if carried on the wind from some far-off place. The words were indistinct, but the tone was mesmerizing and hauntingly beautiful. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, wrapping around them like an invisible shroud. One friend's face paled, terror evident in his eyes. They stood up, ready to bolt, but the forest seemed to close in around them. The fog thickened, and the trees loomed larger, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. They stumbled through the undergrowth, the whispers following them, growing more frantic. Breaths came in ragged gasps, the cold air burning their lungs. A glance back revealed fleeting, shadowy figures flitting between the trees, their eyes glowing with an eerie, unnatural light. In their panic, they lost the path and found themselves at the edge of a small, murky pond. The water was dark and still, reflecting the twisted branches overhead. The whispers had stopped, replaced by a heavy, oppressive silence. As they caught their breath, one of them felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to approach the water's edge. Peering into the inky depths, something moved. At first, it looked like a ripple, but then a pale face emerged, eyes wide and empty, staring up. Stumbling back, heart pounding, one friend grabbed the other's arm, pulling him away from the edge. "We need to get out of here," he said, voice trembling. Now, they ran, not knowing if they were heading in the right direction, only driven by the primal need to escape. The forest seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, the shadows closing in around them. The whispers returned, louder and more frantic, like a chorus of voices crying out in anguish. Just when it seemed like they were lost forever, they burst through the trees and found themselves back on the main path. The fog lifted, and the air felt warmer, more welcoming. They didn't stop running until they were back at the edge of the forest, the lights of the town visible in the distance. Breathless and shaken, they turned to look back at the dark expanse of Hoia Baciu forest. The whispers had ceased, and the forest seemed to return to its silent vigil. These friends never spoke of that night again, but the memory of those whispers and the haunted eyes in the water stayed with them. To this day, whenever anyone walks near Hoia Baciu forest, they might feel a shiver run down their spine and hear the faintest echo of those eerie whispers carried on the wind.